is Suicide King. It is the third album from King 810 all the way. Sorry, King 810, I believe they're officially called. They are from Flint, Michigan, and they are confrontational, controversial new metal. And it'll be the first album without guitarist Andrew Beale or drummer Andrew Workman. This is a no Andy's club from now on. King 810 have always been quite an interesting band to me. The debut album, Memoirs of a Murderer, was really aggressive and really confrontational, and it talked about something about murder, which has obviously been done a lot of times before, but it did it in a more personal point of view, which is something that I'm not really familiar with outside the world of death metal. To hear it in, dare I say, a more commercial sound, like, I think, okay, you're not going to get this on like Top of the Pops or whatever, but maybe things like Scuzz, Rip, Kerrang, that kind of thing. And yeah, the album documented the violence of Flint, Michigan, what's happening down up there, over there, wherever they are. What's happening at the moment is fucking a travesty. There's a lot of obviously like personal point of view accounts of murder, violence, abuse, etc., and just the general hardships of growing up in Flint. And immediately it drew them comparisons to bands like Slipknot and Korn. And I understood Slipknot more at the time. Korn I hear more on this album, which I'll get to in a bit. And to me, like, someone made a very good point. It can be quite dangerous to be associated with these kind of bands on your first album, because with the internet being the way it is, and with metal fans being the way they are, it can be the cynicism creeping in of maybe they are being pushed by the label and not because they're actually any good. So, personally I didn't think it was. I just thought they were a very explosive, new, edgy sound that we were like missing at the time. That's me personally. The sophomore album, which is part French, Le Petit Mort, or A Conversation with God. I think La Petite Mort is a small death, something like that. I'm not 100% sure. Does that have a Google? It doesn't. Fucking great. So, yeah, with Conversation with God, I won't do the French part. Musically, they expanded so much more, and I really enjoyed this album musically. There's a lot more intimate hip-hop influences in there. You've got a song like I Ain't Going Back Again, which is a very dark, broody, gothic, doom rap kind of song. And there's this really haunting synth on the chorus to Alpha and Omega. Again, with the, as I was saying before with the Frank Carter thing, the vocal swells that I was gonna say Pete Gunn then, but I thought no, that's fucking wrong. David Gunn, the execution he has in Alpha and Omega, and you've got this like almost synth crossed with an old school church organ just in the background to really bolster his line, because he's not the strongest vocalist there is. He does like the grunty, angry stuff well, but you know what I mean. It's just the bigger notes he struggles with. So have that in the background does exactly what symphonic music's meant to do. Just gives it a bit of balls. But yet musically, I enjoyed Conversation with God. Lyrically, it was so repetitive. Everything was guns or Flint. And admittedly, Flint, Michigan is no picnic. If there's ever a charity case or like a charity cause that pops up and you like want to donate money to or whatever, anything to do with Flint, Michigan is the way to go, because obviously amongst other charities, of course, but apparently their own government's poisoning their water supply. They've had no clean running water. I think we're going on years now. It's been that long. They are just, I think Michigan in general is really struggling. I've heard bad stories about Detroit as well, but Flint is one of, like, you can list it on the number of cities that have just been forgotten by upper government, and it sounds fucking horrific there. And I couldn't understand why. I never really pay attention to this album's lyric unless it really, really takes me in. And I've listened to lots of albums that I've got that all centre around one theme. That's the whole point of albums, they have themes around them. And I couldn't understand why this whole thing about guns and Flint, Michigan was annoying me compared to out like pop punk albums where all this thing about is their girl from leaving them or this shitty hometown or whatever. And then the Riot Act podcast, who do what I do so much better, made a fucking great point. If you use Love as an example. Lots of bands, like I said, talk about love. A lot of pop punk bands do it, emo do it, even metal bands do it. Everyone sings songs about love. But that's because love as a concept is more widely known, and more widely understood. It's more relatable. There's more, like lyrically, if you're on the other side and you're writing songs about love, there's more to work with because there's so many different angles and things that are happening around it. Whereas Guns and Flint, Michigan, they're so much more niche. Like, fair play. I'm interested to find out if, as a heavy metal fan who's into guns, with this album more appeals to them because they know what it's like to hold a gun, shoot a gun, whatever. And for people who have spent time in Flint, Michigan, is it better? Is King 810 good to them because they understand more about what they're referencing? You know what I mean? It's like, with all this song, like Wonder Years, for example, they've got, like, The Greatest Generation is all about ex-girlfriends, depression, hometown, and on various different levels, it's so much more relatable and you can understand what they're going through and what they're talking about, as opposed to a white boy from the middle of England. I don't have a fucking clue how a gun works, or what it's like to beat the shit out of someone, or to not have running water. Cis white male patriarchy for the win, yo. Excuse me. So yeah, I probably should edit out tea breaks, but fuck you. Where does that leave us with Suicide King then? So the album opens with a song that sounds like a good Mushroomhead song, which still makes it shit because it's Mushroomhead. And the opening lyric to that, which I haven't got written down anywhere, but the way he says it, where he speaks it, makes it sound like he's going for, like, auditioning for the role as Joker in an ex-DC film. Next actual proper song, Braveheart. I'm pretty sure that was the first song released for the album. Initially, I thought it was kind of boring. I just thought it was like a very bog standard King 810 song. It didn't really do anything for me. It's grown on me a lot more recently, but yeah, it didn't do anything new, which is what, when it's a lead single from a new album, even if the rest of the song is going to be pretty much par for the course, you want that first song to be catchy and memorable, which I didn't think Braveheart was, but there we go. And moves on to, like, the first half of the album doesn't massively go outside of what King 810 is known for. So that includes Braveheart. You've got a song called Bang Guns, which I've described as tap out core. The lyrics to it are fucking just bro do bro, yo. You scared of gunshots, boy, pussy boy. Wanna run and tell the cops, boy, pussy boy. I'm a real Don Dada boy, pussy boy. Shot us coming out that Glock, boy, pussy boy. I need Google Translate for that one, but then it goes on to say, I'm a real rude boy. I don't ever run, oh, fuck me. I'm a real rude boy. I don't ever run. I only touch hands with boys whose hands squeeze guns. Really don't like how much he uses the word boy in that lyric, but you know what I mean. It's very man, dude, bro, at the gym, protein, dude, bro, women are there to be fucked kind of mentality. Which is just bleh. It's just bleh. And yeah, I can't unread the I don't ever run, I only touch hands with boys whose hands squeeze guns. Just icky. Anyway, moving on, please, to $1 Million. $1 Million is actually a really fucking good song. I like the fact it uses a sample in the chorus. I don't know where the samples come from. That's probably something that would have been a smart thing to do a Google of, but never mind. And I feel like it's closer to hip hop than it is to metal, and that's not a bad thing. Bring Horizon is going to tell us all about how it's not a bad thing later, but it's actually so $1 Million is like the best of the first half. It's actually the second half of the album where the hip hop elements really become prominent, and that's when the album is at its best. So you got a song like What's Got Into Me. It's a very bassy synth-led rap that adds like a spoopy layer that 810 really crave with pianos on the chorus. It's got like a little piano interlude at the start. Every chorus that's there, it's just almost like it's bringing the song together, just with like little bits here and there. Black Rifle almost is like this like slow, easy like Louisiana blues kind of a feel. It even has like an organ-led chorus, which I'm finding out I'm really liking organs right now. And then the hip hop element of King 810 continues for the next three songs: God Is Watching, Wade in the Water, and Sing Me to Sleep. And like I said, the second half of the album, track 6 to track 10, that is when this album is at its best. But lyrically, the entire album is still all about guns, for fuck's sake. They've even like cut down on the Flint references. Even they've forgotten about Flint, Michigan. They're fucking from there. It's boring. It's so dull to hear the same song over and over again, just with different musical composition. I've really been blagging me to how much I'm so aware of how much these guys sing about guns, but I'm not so aware about how other bands sing about the same thing over and over again. If bands sing about politics, that is a subject that's constantly changing. You've got Brexit, you've got Trump, you've got North Korea, you've got Russia, you've got Syria, I only found about France fucking this morning. If you want to talk about war, there is 1,001 different perspectives from a war-based point of view. And there's 1,001 different wars you could sing from. I listened to an album last week, the Rome album. Musically, it sounds like it should be like King Richard III or some like horseback, sword, chainmail, yah. When they're singing all about like World War One, and then conversely, you got bands that are like got a real industrial edge, like the first half of the 20th century, where you think, oh, it's World War One, it's World War Two. No, they're going back in time and singing about the old Celtic wars or whatever. Look at any folk music from the Scandinavian region. They've got old Norse war folk tales in there. There's so much you can do with just the themology of war. If you want to talk about love, is it going good? Is it going bad? How? Why? There's lots of dopey metaphors and songs about love. And they exist because we need emos to exist. That's what fuels them. And obviously there must be a lot because there's a lot of fucking emos. Death. This is such a death-heavy album, which is completely fine. If you want to make an album all about the different varieties of death, that is fine. But it just balances between him getting a hard-on for murdering people and then him crying because people keep murdering his friends. Last year, Architects released an album almost exclusively talking about death. And no two songs are alike. Like, I even went through it. You've got songs about when even Sam dies. Like, from both perspectives, the people he leaves behind, what are they going to think? What are they going to do? How are they going to feel? When he dies, what is he going to do? Is there an afterlife? What does he do? Like, he even sings about the process of being, I am alive, I am dead. That split second between dead and alive. He sings about that split second in the song. He talks about how, obviously with circumstances around Tom, he talks about that. He talks about what life is like after that. It's so possible to have an album centered around one thing and make it interesting the entire way through. And you want, like, David Gunn wants to be this hard-faced, hard-nosed, almost bully of a man who's gone through shit and now he's trying to make it for himself. And that's absolutely fine. But for fuck's sake, if you're as interesting as you think you are, make the music interesting as well. or make the lyrics, sorry, interesting as well. The music side of the thing, you've got things down. Like, honestly, Conversation with God musically I really enjoy. This musically I'm really, really digging. Especially the second half when you do have the more hip hop stuff coming through as opposed to the more metal stuff coming through. But I'm pretty sure I've heard the lyric "pulled out my Glock and pulled it on someone" about 3 times every single King 810 album. You know? God fucking damn, man. If, like, I feel bad now because I've got to say, like, if you enjoy XYZ, you might enjoy this. If this is the first time you're going to go into 810, I think like the Slipknot comparisons exist there for a reason. It's very confrontational, it's very edgy, it's very aggressive nu metal. So if you like that Slipknot sound from any era, you'll enjoy King of No, you'll enjoy Suicide King. When it goes a bit more dark and gothicy, I think suits modern day Korn more. So if you enjoy like the last, ignoring Paradigm Shift, the last like 3 Korn albums, I think you'll really go for this. Also, I've got a lot of comparisons to Cane Hill as well, and more second album, which I reviewed a couple weeks ago. Too Far Gone. More of that as opposed to the debut, because there's a lot less. There's a lot less. The industrial side of things aren't as in your face in the second Cane Hill album, and this is more in Suicide King. It's more just like the hip hop sampling as opposed to full industrial. So yeah, Slipknot, Korn, Cane Hill. If you take away the lyrics, this is a really good album musically, but I just can't get past the lyrics. And so yeah, that's Suicide King by King 180, not 810. I've just read it's not 810. Moving on to something